Candace van Dell is a new thought leader, author and speaker. She is certified in spiritual psychology, Reiki, yoga, holistic nutrition, health and wellness. Candace was born with heightened intuition and emotional sensitivity, which makes her able to tune into the subconscious patterns and personal paradigms of her clients. She specializes in highly sensitive people and holds a space for deeper wisdom and understanding of your inner child and inner guidance, which she calls the wise guide inside. Candace has a very successful YouTube channel where she shares her channeled wisdom and insights on a variety of subjects. She also offers online healing courses around emotional wounds, toxic relationship dynamics, self-love, shadow work, integration, and she teaches people how to give themselves permission to heal and live an authentic life. Candace also has a monthly membership program for highly sensitive people around the world called the Truth Room Tribe and offers one-on-one coaching also online. She also does live and recorded speaking engagements throughout the year. So here is Candace, and we are speaking about her journey through divorce as a highly sensitive woman.
I'm so happy to be here again.
Yes. Now we know the drill, right? We know just
We know how to do it.
yeah, exactly. So I'm glad you're here and that you want to share about maybe a sensitive topic for you, but also for other people. Divorce is not something that, it is, I'm not sure if you understand what it's really like if you have not gone through divorce or still in it. What's your feeling about that?
You know, I think a lot of highly sensitive people in general think I couldn't do that, right? I'll do whatever it takes to make something work. That's what we do. We do whatever we can to keep our families together, to keep our relationships together, because it's so important to our hearts. And we just don't think we can do it. But one of the things I do want to stress is, in my opinion, I think different people have different experiences, but it, for me, was the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life. And I think one of the reasons is because I didn't know what I was getting into. I had no idea how this was going to go. There are so many different feelings of loss and change and uncertainty on so many levels that HSPs thrive on being certain and not having change, right? So when there's all this change and uncertainty and your heart's involved and all of your energy and emotions are involved, it's exhausting. And so hopefully today I can give some insight and maybe even some advice if anyone's going through this of how to maybe go through those turbulent waters with more grace and ease now that I've been there, done that.
Yes. So I'm inquisitive. What were your beliefs about marriage as a young girl?
Well, my parents got divorced when I was 11 years old. And I never really saw them having an amazing marriage. But I do remember thinking as a kid that divorce really was not good for me. It broke my family. It broke my heart. It was probably a first big trauma for me without really even realizing it, because they're like, oh, everything's fine. Here's stepdad. Here, yeah. No, it ain't fine. Like, for a kid who didn't have the ability to process it all, and my parents were not friends afterwards, that made a big difference. So my idea of marriage is I'm going to have the fairy tale marriage so that I don't have to go through that. It's going to be perfect, right? I had such this idealized version of what my wedding was going to be, what my dress was going to be. I mean, most girls do kind of fantasize about Cinderella, but I literally had the Cinderella story. I did. And I had the Cinderella wedding, the Cinderella ring, I had everything. I even wanted the shoes to be like that. So for me, because it was broken and traumatic, I had this idealized fantasy, a fairy tale that I thought it would be. I had a huge imagination, as you could tell. And I was so sensitive that I think for me, when my family broke up, there was a part of me that I didn't realize until many, many, many years later that was not broken, but seriously sad, and didn't get to mourn that. Because, mom's going to be strong, dad's going to be strong, got to be strong. But as kids and even as women and adults now, I even tell my clients, if you don't feel it, you can't heal it. If you don't mourn it, you can't be released from that stuck experience. So it's really important to now, what I've done in all my healing work is go back to that girl and let her feel everything she felt, because it's very valid. So I felt like I had a lot of stuck emotions. One of the things I realized later in life that was very strange for a highly sensitive person, I thought, but it's really not, it's more common, is that I didn't know what I felt. Oftentimes, things would come up, very emotional things or relational things, and I'd be like, I don't even know what I feel. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make a decision because I don't know what I'm feeling. And I think that came from that time when I wasn't able to put names to things and process it and have it totally validated and acknowledged. So you get stuck, right? You kind of like incubate your emotional experience. So as a kid, I felt like there was a lot of a lack of outlet for emotional expression. And if you're HSP, you need that.
And what would you say is the hardest part about going through divorce?
Now or as a kid?
Now?
Yeah. Ooh, well, there are so many layers to this. I think the hardest thing for me at the beginning was anxiety. I had so much anxiety, so much fear. My biggest fear as a child was fear of the unknown, like I've mentioned. And so in divorce, it's all unknown. And in fact, there are, in my situation, I think many situations, there's a lot of new characters that come in. There's attorneys, there's all these different things that come into play that I had never dealt with in my life. And now I was dealing with it all on my own. It was all put on me. So not only just fear of finances, fear of emotion, fear of mental health, fear of keeping my business together and my work and showing up authentically and strong. I had to do everything for myself on my own with all these people pulling at me all day long. And what it really taught me was extreme surrender, but also trust. I realized not only can I trust myself to be capable and be sort of more strong and resilient than I ever knew, but also to feel all the feelings while I was going through it was incredibly healing. To not block it, to not show up with my clients and pretend. I would show up sometimes and I'd cry in the group and they're like, you're so raw and real. This is amazing. I'm like, well, this is what's happening. And it was cool to be able to be loved and accepted by myself and my community through such a traumatic process. So I guess in a nutshell, what's the hardest thing? Everything. Everything was hard about it until it wasn't. It's been a year from the beginning. So what's interesting now is everybody told me along the process, Candace, you're so strong. See, I didn't know. There was part of me in the shadow still. And I just, launched this course called Shadow Work. I had to do the shadow work to be able to build the course. So that's what divorce did for me, is these parts of me that were in the shadow that were super capable, super strong, super driven, which I've always known, but in a different way, came out because they had to. And so everybody's like, Candace, you're going to be fine. You're so strong. You're so this. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to crumble and die. I'm going to be homeless. Like all the big fears came out. I'm going to lose my business. I'm going to lose all these friends. Like, of course, none of that happened. They were all right. They were right. They said, you'll feel free. You'll rise to another level. I'm like, you guys are all crazy. So what I want to say is that is true, because the pain of it and the fear of it is totally temporary. What I did is I decided I'm just going to settle to stop the bleeding. And that was a huge self-honoring choice, because most people were like, let's let the system take care of everything. I'm like, oh, no. I trust myself. This is what I can handle. This is what I'm going to do. And it was the best decision I ever made, because immediately after that, I could just chill. And when I did that, I realized that all the biggest fears I've ever had in my life, I just faced them and I did it. and it's fine. I'm fine. And I rebuilt my business like overnight almost. It was interesting. And my friends are all still my friends, and my health is intact, and I didn't miss a beat. And I'm really proud of that, because I know a lot of people do, because they let all the fears overwhelm them and become them. And I was not willing to do that. I knew too much about emotional intelligence and emotional health, thank God, that for me, I faced it all like a freaking lion. And I was like, it's not going to touch me. It's something I'm going through. It's not going to define me. It's something that's happening. And I kept that and I maintained that for the year. And I think that's why I'm able to talk about it today and say, you'll be fine. It just sucks, but you'll be fine.
Yeah, surrendering to the feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. Always.
Yes, go all in. Yes.
And that's what's hard for people to do, because people are afraid of their feelings. That's a bad thing, right? But we all grow up being taught that some aren't okay and some aren't comfortable because our parents didn't know how to deal with them. And what I've spent the last decade doing is getting really, really good at understanding and processing emotion. And so that really, I was my own teacher during my divorce, and it really changed the game for me to be able to release and cry and let myself be a mess some days, and let myself sleep in some days, and let myself skip my workout some weeks, and all the things I needed to do, or go take trips alone, which I thought I would never do because I've been with my husband 10 years. I was married 8 years. And the first time I did it, I was like, oh, it's like riding a bike. I actually like this. So it's reclaiming those parts of yourself that sometimes get dormant when you're in a marriage or a long-term relationship and really, really comfortable.
Yes. So what do you do if you have a really, really off day? You just mentioned to sleep in, but if you have a day that you think, oh, this really sucks, it's an off day, what helps? What do you do?
I'm really, really big on self-care. My masseuse is probably over here at least once a week. I mean, I'm not even kidding, because it's really important to me to not only have like my mental clarity, but my physical as well. So some days they were really tough, and I got really good at allowing myself to be where I was, not resisting it, not fighting it, not judging myself for it, but saying, Candace, you're going through a massive transition. You can feel like shit some days. That's okay. You can feel really happy some days. That's okay. Everything that I felt, I normalized. And I said, girl, I've never been through anything like this. Thank God I have a lot of friends that have as well. So it was really, I had a support team. But I felt like I've never been through this. Why would I expect myself to be perfect through it? No, I'm not going to be. I'm going to be like not perfect. What's funny about it is the majority of my clients have actually commented to me, you went through that like a breeze. I'm like, no, it seemed that way because I kept it together. But of course, it was internally the most brutal experience of my life, because for me, I'm a Cancer. I'm all about family. I had 4 stepsons. I was all about, wow, I'm marrying into this family where I already have all the kids and I already have everything, the dogs. And it was blissful to me. And I was really, really, really afraid of what would happen to me by losing that. And I've gone through a lot of loss the year prior anyway with our house. It was in a fire. My soulmate puppy passed away, shockingly. We had to move to another state after 22 years. A lot had happened before this divorce to kind of prepare me, I now see. And in those losses, I also realized that that was like the love of my dog that passed was the worst out of all of that, but she's always with me. Losing the home, losing the stuff, it's just stuff. I'm the same. So with the marriage, I'm like, what really happened to me is I realized how grateful I was for that period of time to bring me to where I'm going to be next. And that time, I think we've talked about it before, of in between the old and the new is a scary time, because you're like, is there going to be another husband? Is there going to be a better life? And what I started to realize is, well, I'm going to create what I want in the energy field right now of opportunity. Anything is possible right now. I don't have to be anywhere or anything for anyone except for me, which is also a scary thing for highly sensitive people because we're always about everybody else. So this also brought me back to me. Like, what does Candace like to do? What do I like to wear? Where do I want to eat? Where do I want to travel? What do I want to do? And in that space, I think I can say it's kind of like a metamorphosis. It's kind of, yeah, there's not even a word for that experience, because you go from extreme negative to, wait a minute, it's not about loss. It's about different change. In a way, expansion.
Yeah. The overall theme of the summit is transformation. So,
Oh,
yeah, thanks.
there you go. That's what it is. That's what divorce can be if you do it in a way that is probably less travel, because most people are like, divorce is the worst thing. Yeah, it's terrible, but actually leads to something really beautiful if you let it.
If you surrender.
If you surrender.
Yeah. So I can, you shared about your feelings, and probably you felt anger, sadness, so many things. But were there also emotions that were totally new, that came up, that you felt for the very, very first time?
New emotions, you're saying?
Yeah. Unexpected.
Yeah. I think I really embraced acceptance. And something kind of happened to me early on when I had to make big decisions right away. Like I was pushed to do a lot of things. I realized how smart I am, first of all, how much I can really trust myself, and how much this acceptance piece was more like, it gave me this experience of peace and calm every day if I wanted to. I saw that acceptance was a choice. I saw that there was a lot of bad things happening in my surroundings, but I didn't have to feel bad. You know, I talk a lot in my work about unconditional feelings, right? You can feel whatever you feel regardless of your conditions. And I've been definitely practicing that over the years, but this was the test of, here is the scariest, worst, awful conditions. How do you want to feel? And I was like, wait, I was still having fun. I was going on adventures. I was meeting new people. And I was like, this is really funny because I'm going through a really scary thing, but I'm learning to still live my life and have joy through it, even though there were days where I couldn't breathe. And I was like on the ground saying, please let this end. There were those days. And then there was other days where I'm like, okay, let's go do this fun motorcycle trip or whatever with like new people I've never, it was interesting. So I think the acceptance of this is what's happening, and it doesn't have to end my life. It doesn't have to end my joy. It doesn't have to be anything other than what it is. So in the past, I used to kind of be an extremist. I'm like, this is happening, everything's bad. This is happening, everything's good. What I've learned is there's such a gray area. We can literally be however we want to be, regardless of what we're going through. And that's a hard thing for people to get, because sometimes people get mad at me. They're like, really? My kid's sick. You think I can be in a good mood? I'm like, no, your kid's sick. You don't have to be happy about it, but you can still be okay. You can still be okay. There's other dimensions to life. So instead of also making my marriage the center of my world, I realized that's also not right. It's not the center of your world. It was the center of my life for a very long time, but I never lost myself in that either. And I'm really happy to say that I saw through my divorce that who I was before and after is kind of the same, just with more dynamics going on. Mm-hmm. And everyone's afraid of losing themselves. I was afraid. Everyone says, you're going to transform. You're going to be a different person. I'm like, I don't want to be. I loved her. I loved the girl I was in the marriage, and I didn't want to change. But what I realized is you always bring who you are with you. It's an add-on. You're adding different things, and it can't be negative. Everyone's afraid change will be worse. You're always evolving and growing if you allow it. We have to understand that pain actually brings us more into that purpose. Pain actually brings us more into who we are, because we're breaking our heart open to be more heart-led. And if we can embrace that, we won't be as afraid of it as we think we should be.
Yeah, it brings you into that sacred space where all those feelings can be felt, and where your true you is settled.
Yes. Yes.
So I hear acceptance of the extremes. So highly sensitive people are really talented in that, to be in total awe and to feel the deep, deep sadness.
Yeah.
I understand that might be an emotional roller coaster. And for highly sensitive people, it might be felt different to go through a divorce. You shared already a bit about that, but how has your high sensitivity helped you in this new chapter in life?
You know what's so funny is I feel like, I've always been a spiritual being, like I'm a spiritual teacher, all that stuff. But I feel more, this may sound weird, but it's very true. I feel totally more connected to my higher self than ever before. It's almost like I had an ego death during my marriage. Like those last pieces of my ego that I'm holding on to these societal ideals or whatever, done. You realize that it just doesn't matter at all. And what I really started to do as I started to trust and surrender more and more and more and see that, wow, I was guided through this and I'm okay. I'm even good. I started having such this amazing personal relationship with my higher power, with source, understanding that that did guide me and that is in me. Everything I teach, I just had to walk. I had to walk my talk big time. And it's amazing to know that you can tap into something up there and be guided to scary stuff down here. And so whenever I'm coaching someone, I'll say, okay, I understand you're in the pain. That's your human self. Let's go to the higher self. What is it seeing? Why is this happening for you? And it's very hard when you go through divorce or death, which it feels like a death, or anything like this. How is this happening for me, Candace? Like, I'm like, this is not happening for me. This is terrible. Like, actually, though, it's pushing you more into your higher self. Because if we let go of these things we're attached to, I'm a wife, like all these identities and things. If we let go of these identities and we just allow ourselves to be a spiritual being, we will just be a spiritual being. And you realize that that is so much more than the things we try to attach to. So for me, the biggest gift that I think I gave to myself in a way during this divorce was I'm just going to live from the higher place because it feels better. And what that means is my perspective on things isn't attached to anything. It isn't judgmental of anything. It's neutrally observing. And if I were to neutrally observe that scary situation that I made it out of, what would I say? I would say, wow, it's people not wanting to let go. So they're causing themselves pain, not let go of money, not let go of a connection, not let go of a past. But as soon as you let go of all those things, guess what happens? More flows in. And I didn't believe that either. I'm like, no, I've got to keep this. I've got to keep that. I want to keep the couch, whatever you do in a divorce. If you let go of it, guess what? New comes in. And that's that trust and surrender that's really been anchored in me the last year.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that even more aligned things come in?
More aligned. I think that's the whole point of divorce in a nutshell, is it's no longer in alignment. And you can feel it. You're like, oh, I don't know why. I have this client right now that's about to get a divorce. And she's like, Candace, she's watched my videos for tons of years. Now we started working together. And she goes, everything you said, I applied. And I can't even tell you, I know there's something amazing for me. She's been married 37 years. And she's about to divorce. This is a big, big deal. But she goes, I can't help but feeling out of alignment. This was yesterday. We had this talk. She's like, I just don't feel in alignment. When I spend time at my sister's house, I feel more in alignment. When I think about my future, I feel more in alignment. Is that wrong? I go, no, you've outgrown something. Why does it have to be so negative? You can stay friends. We're just afraid of leaving. And so she was telling me, well, the only reason I haven't left yet is because my 9-year-old dog is sick and I don't want the dog to be uprooted. I go, okay, can I be honest because I'm reading your energy? She goes, yeah. I go, the dog is your excuse. It's your last excuse. Your dog will be happy wherever you are. And she started to cry. She goes, how did you know that? I go, because I know how hard it is to let go. And it's totally fine to use your dog as an excuse as long as you want until you're ready not to. But let me let you know, your dog will be fine. I did the same thing. I had a 10-year-old dog and I got divorced and the dog is fine. And she's like, oh, Candace, thank you so much. We just don't want to let go. So we'll look for any reason to be like, well, maybe. And then you stay out of your alignment. And she said, yeah, but I just want to make sure. I go, okay, if you stay longer than you know you want to, are you doing something for him or are you reversing your own alignment? Are you resisting the change that wants to occur in your being? She goes, I know, I feel it every single day. I said, okay, don't rush it. When you're ready, you will do it. And so it's just this process of accepting and surrendering and trusting. And it's a lot of pieces to put together at once, especially like her. She's highly sensitive as well, thinking about her husband over herself. And I'm like, but what about you? We never answer that question. What about me? What about me is, oh, I'll be okay if they're okay. No, it can't be like that.
Yeah, it's so beautiful to observe you like this, because what comes up for me is that now you became your own Cinderella. when I look at you.
That's so cute. I had a couple clients say the same thing, which is
Okay.
interesting. That's really interesting. I think you're right. You know, in psychology, there's this thing called the Cinderella Complex, right? It's a woman who's afraid of her independence. And I got chills. And I feel that that was the part of my shadow. I've been super independent my whole life. Then I get married and I'm like, oh, thank God I can take a break. They can be about something, right? And then I missed that part of me. And now that I'm single, it's, you realize you don't really need anyone. That's huge and scary for a lot of people. That was the scariest thing for me because we want to be connected. So when you realize I don't need anyone, a lot of women, men too, are afraid of not needing someone because they think that means they'll be alone. So they actually dumb themselves down and say, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I need you to do it, so that they need to be in relationship. And that was one of my deals. And I was so afraid to totally own my power, to not have to need anyone, to know that I didn't, to re-own that. But it's the best thing I've ever done because it's a sense of complete freedom. Do I have people around me? Sure. Of course I'm not alone. But I live alone with my puppy and I do my own thing and I have my own business and I have my own friends. So my life is by myself, but I'm not lonely or alone. And that's the thing. We don't have to. See, one of the reasons too I realize people feel more alone than they are is because the part of them that they're actually projecting onto someone else because it's in their shadow is wanting them. And we can't reclaim all parts of ourselves if we're still dependent or hiding from the truth of who we are in any way. So to become your own Cinderella is really like, I got this. I got this. And it's a powerful place to be, and it's exciting, and it's fun.
Yeah. Chills
Yeah.
again, right?
Yeah, it feels really good. And I don't have any fears of not meeting someone else or being alone my whole life because I'm independent. I don't feel like that at all. I kind of feel the opposite. You can then choose what you want because you know what you want because you're being you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Candace, for your authentic sharing. Are there any, what closing words come up? What do you feel?
Let me think. You got this for sure. The thing that I want to say too is a lot of people have a hard time believing in themselves. And when you go through really hard things, oh, that's funny. I forgot I even wanted to say this. When you go through really hard things and you end up really good, you realize that the only reason you're afraid to believe in yourself is because you're afraid of everything you might be. And so I encourage anyone who's going through a breakup or a divorce right now to go head on and trust that everything that you want to be is on the other side of that fear. Everything that you truly are is on the other side of the fear. Everything that you're afraid of is not going to happen. It's never as bad as you think because it's just false evidence appearing real until you go towards it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm fine. So you're going to be okay. You can go through really hard things and still thrive. And that's what I got from this. And I'm really happy about it because it takes down your fear for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful closing words.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. So thank you very much, Candace.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Much love. Thank you.